Imagine for a second, you're in a dusty saloon in Dodge City, 1878. The air is thick with cheap cigar smoke and the sour smell of sweat mixed with spilled whiskey. In the corner, a woman in a faded red dress smiles at you. She's in her early 20s, but her eyes look 50. You walk up the creaking wooden stairs with her. 15 minutes later, you come back down, adjust your hat, and go back to your ranch work. Let's get straight to the numbers, because they destroy whatever romance is left. In towns like Dodge City, Tombstone, and Abilene, it's estimated that up to 50% of prostitutes, the so-called soil doves, were infected with syphilis. 50%. Half. And the Cowboys? Same thing. The disease circulated like currency. It was an occupational hazard of the West. You rode your horse, drove cattle for months, arrived in town with a pocket full of money, drank until you forgot your own name, and paid for company. And then the countdown began. Because syphilis didn't kill quickly. It gave you hope. It waited. First a sore appeared. Small. Painless. You didn't care. It went away on its own in a few weeks. Done cured, right? Wrong. The Treponema pallidum bacterium was already swimming in your blood, traveling through your body, settling in your bones, your brain, your eyes. Silent, invisible. And you kept living, kept working, kept spreading. There were no tests, no early diagnosis. You only found out when it was already too late, when the body started collapsing from the inside. But the worst wasn't the disease. The worst was what they did to try to save you. There was a saying among doctors in time, one night with Venus, a lifetime with Mercury, and it wasn't a metaphor. The only known treatment for syphilis in the 19th century was mercury, liquid metal, poisonous, deadly, and they put it into your body in every imaginable way. First came the ointments. You rubbed mercury into your skin. The smell was unbearable, metallic, sickly sweet, sticking to your throat. Your skin began to peel. Open sores formed wherever you applied the treatment. But you continued, because the alternative was worse. Then came the pills. Mercury chloride. You swallowed it, and within hours your stomach turned itself inside out. Vomiting, diarrhea, blood. Your teeth started to loosen. Your gums swelled, bled, rotted. Teeth fell out into your hand while you ate. Your breath? Foul, putrid. You smelled like death from the inside. But it still wasn't over, because the mercury also reached the brain. Tremors, confusion, paranoia. You started losing your mind before losing your body. Tough cowboys, men who had survived Indian attacks, blizzards, gunfights, reduced to trembling skeletons who couldn't hold a spoon. And worst of all, the injection. Thick glass syringes, rusted metal needles. And they injected liquid mercury straight into the urethra, directly into the canal. Imagine the sensation. The cold metal entering, burning like liquid fire. You screamed, sweated cold, bit down on a piece of leather so you wouldn't shatter your own teeth. And then came the infection, because those syringes were never cleaned. The treatment killed as many as the disease, sometimes faster. But let's say you survived the mercury. Let's say your body held on. The syphilis was still there, waiting. It waited years. 5, 10, 20. Then came the tertiary stage, the final stage. First, the lesions, syphilitic gummas, deep wounds that ate the flesh from the inside out. They looked like craters, holes in the skin exposing bone. You could see a man's skull through his face. And the smell? Sweet, sickly, putrid, the smell of rotting flesh while you were still alive. Then came the nose. Saddle nose, they called it. The cartilage collapsed. The center of the face caved in. And then it fell off. Literally. You'd wake up one morning and your nose was in your hand. Only a hole remained in the middle of your face. 2 tunnels straight into the cranial cavity. Some men wore leather masks. Others simply stopped going outside. And the blindness. The bacterium attacked the optic nerves. First things got blurry, then gray, then black, forever. You spent the rest of your life in darkness. But the worst was the dementia, neurosyphilis, when the bacteria reached the brain. You began to forget who you were, became violent, screamed at people who weren't there, drooled, lost control of bodily functions. The tough cowboy, the man who rode bulls and faced outlaws, now sat in the corner of a foul-smelling room, drooling on his own shirt, unable to recognize his own name. And no one talked about it, because dying of syphilis was shameful. It was dying of a woman's disease, not honorable like a bullet, so they died in silence. And where there's despair, there are charlatans. Traveling salesmen roam frontier towns selling miraculous cures. Glass bottles with colorful labels. Elixir of life. Restorative tonic. Guaranteed cure for all blood diseases. Inside, pure alcohol mixed with opium, or arsenic, or simply colored water. Nothing that cured. Everything that killed faster. But men bought it, because the alternative was admitting the truth. Admitting they were infected. Admitting they needed a doctor. Admitting they had caught a brothel disease. The stigma was as heavy as the illness. You could die from a bullet and be buried with honors. But dying of syphilis, you were buried at night. No gravestone, no name, forgotten. So they drank the charlatans' poisons, hid their sores under hats and scarves, pretended everything was fine, until it wasn't, and then they fell, in the street, in the saloon, alone. Hollywood will never show you this, because the truth doesn't sell tickets. The truth isn't glorious. The truth is a 30-year-old man who looks 70, without a nose, without teeth, blind, drooling, dying slowly on a filthy bed, while his body rots from the inside out. The brothels and saloons of the Old West killed more men than all the gunfights combined. And the weapon wasn't a Colt. It was an invisible bacterium. And the treatment was poison. That is the reality of the frontier. Brutal, invisible, without honor. If you want more stories that destroy what Hollywood taught you, subscribe to the channel, turn on notifications, and share this video with someone who still thinks the Old West was romantic, because here we deliver the truth, raw, visceral, unfiltered, until the next frontier legend.